Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to wait one more minute to allow folks to enter into this Zoom space. Thank you all so much for taking the time today to join us. Okay, oops, let's get started. My name is Margaret Okada-Sheck. I am the Associate Director of Admissions here, and I am absolutely thrilled to discuss the Master of Theological Studies with everyone today. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to turn off my camera for this brief overview, and then we'll get started with our panelists. So, Harvard Divinity School is the first divinity school in the United States that is non-sectarian school of religious and theological studies that educates students both in the academic study of religion and in the practical skills needed for leadership in religious, governmental, and a wide range of service organizations. With more than 40 faith traditions represented in the student body, including those who are not religiously affiliated, and more than 500 recurring worship services, HDS is also the most religiously pluralistic divinity school in the world. Our degree programs lead to infinite pathways with alumnics in every field and industry who value ethical leadership, religious literacy, and service-oriented, mission-driven work. Graduates often describe developing skills such as deep listening, ethical reasoning, bridging divides successfully, and navigating difficult conversations as part of their experience. The two-year Master of Theological Studies program, or MTS, offers students the opportunity to explore how different elements of religion relate to language, culture, and the evolution of different faith traditions. It enables students to explore deeply and broadly the languages, literatures, thought, institutions, practices, normative claims, and structures of a variety of theological fields and religious traditions. It also enables students to think critically with sophistication and self-awareness about the scholarly study of these concepts and traditions. 18 areas of focus allow for diverse educational interests and vocational goals. Students enrolled to prepare for a doctoral program in religion or related discipline, or to approach another field or profession such as law, journalism, public policy, education, arts, or medicine from a perspective enriched by theological study. This program does provide institutional financial aid and really enables students to apply the study of religion to a wide variety of fields. The MTS students in their first semester and in consultation with their advisors declare an area of focus. Typically, a student selects an area from 18 shown on this slide. Most applicants are interested in more than one area of focus. So it's easy to change your initial selection once you're at HDS if you realize another area of focus makes more sense. So, for example, for students studying Buddhist studies can also engage with South Asian religious traditions, comparative studies, East Asian religions, or women, gender, sexuality, and religion. Occasionally, it really depends on where you want to be situated in the field. Occasionally, if a student's interests are not accommodated by the established areas, the student, in conjunction with their academic advisor, may request the pursuit of an individually designed area of focus. Harvard Divinity School offers institutional grant aid for students enrolling in the MDiv or MTS programs. Approximately 90% of MDiv and MTS students receive institutional grant aid, the majority of which is need-based grant aid. HDS has a small pool of merit aid that is awarded based on the overall strength of the application. We strongly encourage everyone to submit a financial aid application to be considered for need-based aid. Finally, how to apply. If you are listening here, there are other sort of resources available to you to learn more about the application process. What I really want to highlight right now for everyone in the audience is that the application is available right now. And the deadline for all of our degree programs is January 5th, 2023. And we are asking folks to submit their applications for financial aid in late January to February, and students are going to a select number of students will be asked for interviews or invited for interviews, and we will release admissions decisions in mid-March. And we release admissions and financial aid decisions within 24 hours of each other. The one thing that I want to make sure everyone knows about the application process is that it is holistic, and we look at every single component of an application because we really want to make sure that HDS is a good fit for each student and what they are interested in and what their goals are. And so I would really encourage folks to reach out with any questions, but definitely look to other resources that we're offering throughout this this fall, as well as what has been pre-recorded. So hopefully that will be helpful to you all. Please keep connected. Again, our blog is an awesome resource, as well as our Instagram account. I really think that you'll find a wide variety of resources as well as perspectives, and different members of our community are featured. So you can definitely check that out. If you have any questions that you want to be connected to a current HDS student, our ask_students is a really awesome resource for folks. And then, of course, any information related to the application, please feel free to write to us at admissions@hds.harvard.edu. Now I want to move forward to exploring the Master of Theological Studies with our moderator, who is Professor David Lamberth, currently chair of the MTS Committee and professor of Philosophy and Theology. I am also joined by student panelists who are all current MTS students. So I am going to ask my colleagues to please unmute themselves and turn on their cameras so that we can speak with the audience. Wonderful. Thank you all so much.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Margaret. It's really a delight to be here today with all of you. Welcome. And we hope today to engage some of the questions you may have, and also to perhaps provide different perspectives on the MTS program that you may not quite have thought of. As Margaret said, I'm David Lamberth, professor of philosophy and theology here at the Faculty of Divinity. I am a philosopher of religion, more or less, by training. I teach modern Western religious thought, but I range really from earlier time periods in the medieval period forward to the present, depending on which courses I'm teaching, and teach broadly across Western religious thought and also in theories and methods in the study of religion. I'm also the faculty chair of the committee which oversees the Master of Theological Studies. And that's the role I'm in today, or the hat I'm wearing today, as hosting this conversation, and I hope I can bring you some perspective on that. The MTS is our largest degree program, just numerically speaking, in terms of the number of students and the number of students per year. It's probably also our most flexible and broadest program. As Margaret was saying, we routinely entertain students working in 18 areas of focus, and we actually have flexibility in cases where it makes sense to create specialized areas of focus as well for particular students. It's a it's an appropriate degree program for students who are looking to study for 2 years, which is what the length of the program is. It's often a place for students who are thinking about the possibility of doing doctoral work in the study of religion or a related field. And it's also a great place for students who are looking to explore interests with regard to religious traditions or the study of religion, or perhaps the intersection of the study of religion or some field of that and other forms of practice. The flexibility of the degree program and the breadth of the university and the possibility of taking up to half your courses in other parts of Harvard University or in our affiliated schools in the Boston area mean there's a really extraordinary opportunity to pursue a great range of interests. Students in the program range fairly widely in terms of age and place in career and objectives for the degree. It's a very diverse group in terms of representation of religious traditions, parts of the country, different identities, and as well as the spread of age and interest I was talking about. Your colleagues in this degree program will turn out to be a fascinating group, and one of the groups from whom you perhaps learn as much as you do from the faculty. All of our students in all our degree programs at the Divinity School are advised by members of the faculty, which means I have the opportunity to get to know a number of students closely, and I also have the opportunity to help them figure out what the best path through the program is. My students are in fact doing a number of things and looking towards a number of different objectives. Some are looking to pursue doctoral work. I have others who are thinking about going into teaching at the middle school or high school level. Some came to us out of a career and had expectations of going back into that. Sometimes they go back into the same career with the insights of having studied here for a couple of years. Sometimes it's an opportunity for people to pivot and think about doing something else. And some of our students look to working in nonprofit sectors or occasionally religious leadership that doesn't require a divinity degree per se. And I have students who've gone on to go into law or medicine with the benefit of the breadth of the study of religion that they've done while they were here. We typically, as faculty, tailor our mentoring to each student, and we also collaborate with our resources in career services to help students think about what's next, even though I know you're thinking about what's next might be the MTS at Harvard Divinity School. Very soon after you come here, we'll be trying to help you also think about how to get the most out of your time with us, but also how to think about how to make that work for you in terms of what follows your time here. The community of students, both the MTS students specifically, but all of the students at the Divinity School are a remarkable group of individuals, and it's really a joy to work with them all. I have the delight today of having 3 students to join me on the panel. So I think I will turn to the students actually to introduce yourselves and maybe say who you are and where you came to the Divinity School from, perhaps, and also what your focus is here. And then we'll talk about some other, we'll start up a discussion where I pose some questions and we get going so that the people who are joining us can get a feel for what your experience has been here and thereby get a sense of what it might be for them. Eoin, why don't I start with you and have you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dr. Lamberth. Welcome, everyone. Very excited to see some potential new folks that are interested in coming to HDS. So as Dr. Lamberth said, my name is Eoin Lyons. I am a second-year Master of Theological Studies student focused on religion, ethics, and politics. Specific areas of interest focus predominantly on the role of forgiveness or mercy within a justice system. So came really interested in trying to explore how do we center this idea of human dignity within the current American justice system. So focused on religion, ethics, and politics for my MTS degree. And I'm originally from San Francisco. So I was able to move across country to experience the East Coast for a little bit.
Delightful. That's most notable in the winter, I'm sure, for someone from San Francisco. But we'll come back to that where we need to. Mashal.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Mashal. I am from Pakistan. And I came to the US for my degree at Harvard. And my focus here is Islamic studies. So before coming here, I worked as an educationist for 3 years. And so I was really interested in curriculum design and religious pedagogy. And so that's what I've been doing here. MTS gave me the chance to explore like different ways in which we can teach religion and sort of improve religious discourse. So here I got the chance of exploring film and social media as platforms for sort of improving religious discourse. So that's mostly, what I work on. Yeah.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hello and welcome. It's great to see so many of you interested in potentially coming to HDS. So I'm Sarah Bai. I'm a Master of Theological Studies student at Harvard Divinity School in my second and final year. My area of focus is religion, ethics, and politics. I'm second generation Chinese American, did my undergraduate degree at Columbia, did master's at Oxford, and previously worked in healthcare and education before coming here. And I really came to Harvard Divinity School to explore the intersection of faith and ministry and service, an environment that really allowed many different possibilities. And during my 3 semesters so far, I've taken courses at the Divinity School, the Kennedy School, the Business School, as well as MIT. Personally really passionate about social and environmental change, especially when it comes to mobility, transportation, and climate. I'm currently working on a mobility and climate tech startup. And outside of the classroom, I'm a member of St. Paul's Catholic Church, part of on-campus groups such as HDS Catholics and Friends, the Institute of Politics, Entrepreneurship Club, Energy Environment Club, German Club, and also enjoy writing poems and sailing. And very much look forward to sharing insights with all of you today.
Terrific. So maybe as a way to start off our conversation, I'll pick up what some of you have gestured towards in your introductory comments, but ask explicitly whether you might say a little bit about what led you to HDS, and there are several different kinds of answers I could imagine about that, so don't feel constrained. It might be the particulars of certain things, or it might be objectives you had in your thinking about your own trajectory about where you came. But I'm curious what brought you to HDS professionally or personally. Mashal, yeah.
Yeah. So I did my undergrad in economics, and for me, like I was interested in religion and religious discourse, like on a personal level. And all the books that I read were so hard for me to read because of how I did not have a background in this field. And so one day I just stumbled upon the Religious Literacy Project, as it was called back then. And I was fascinated. I was amazed. I was like, wow, someone is working on making all of this accessible to people like me. And so that's how I got interested in the program. And then I started taking courses online. Back then, courses were being offered in collaboration with edX. I took a bunch of courses there, and that's how I, developed, and that's how I got to know the amazing resources that are available at HDS. And that's how I ended up applying.
Great. Eoin, sorry. I'm doing that twice today. My apologies.
Dr. Lamberth, every time. So for me, actually somewhat similar to Mashal, in that I studied finance and political science in undergrad, and then worked at an accounting firm, one of the major accounting firms in forensics. So specifically focused on corporate ethics. So looking into corporate investigations, specifically things like fraud and bribery. And while I was there, I was really struck by this distinction between ethics and compliance. How do we hold organizations or individuals accountable, but also recognize the need not simply to punish them, but to exact change. So in these kind of thoughts about the derivation of culture within organizations, this derivation of ethics within organizations, and this role of mercy or forgiveness within a larger justice system, I started to look for a few different programs, and the original intention was to go directly to law school. So I'd started my applications there, and then felt like I'd been rushing into it without really trying to pin down, what does this concept of justice mean to me? What does this concept of forgiveness mean to me? And so I kind of took a step back, pumped the brakes, and decided to expand my horizon and try to find a program or opportunity that would allow me to pull these threads a little bit further. I was raised Catholic, have gone to Catholic school all my life, and it has always played a pivotal role in understanding my own moral code. So I decided to kind of take that step back and explore these themes from a multi-denominational perspective as well, to really try to pull in other voices and inform my own. So I've been able to do so kind of over these 2 years, been able to really get a firmer understanding of what those values mean to me, so that I can then kind of go into the career of what I intended to do.
Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, happy to pitch in. So I think there was, if anything, a week that really transformed my life. So when I was 20 years old, I remember this Holy Week a couple of years ago, I came to faith at an Anglo-Catholic monastery during that week, during that Holy Week leading up to Easter. And really wanting to, further my exploration of faith and ministry and service in a way that didn't just mean, okay, you necessarily working in a church afterwards, but in a holistic way. And one of the things that led me to, choose to apply to HDS and ultimately commit here is because of the environment that offers such great academic flexibility. Being able to take courses at other Harvard schools, being able to really mesh with a greater environment, both within HDS and other classmates who have such rich professional life backgrounds, and also classmates throughout Harvard. And on a practical level as well, I think this is great in an environment that allowed me to continue living a car-free lifestyle. Cambridge is a wonderful city. I mean, yes, we're thinking Harvard, everyone knows Harvard, it's a great school, but also Cambridge itself, it's a vibrant place, lots of great people, lots of excellent transportation options. And for me, that was a deal breaker. I didn't want to live in a place I could, would have to be dependent on a car. So I know that's not everyone's main area focus. I'll speak briefly about my courses. So this semester, taking 2 wonderful courses, HDS, one on administration leadership, another one on faith-based community organizing, also taking a course at Harvard Business School called Field X, which is working on a startup, and then taking a course at MIT, not too far away from Harvard, very close by, on mobility ventures, driving innovation in transportation systems. And I feel like during my time here, really being able to explore different realms and pursue areas I'm passionate about, an environment that really honors faith and ministry and service holistically.
Sarah's background is she's not actually standing there. She's on Zoom somewhere. We don't know where, but Sarah's standing in front of Harvard's Harry Elkins Widener Library, which is the home to maybe 4 million of the university's, we don't really know how to count anymore, but it's somewhere over 20 million volumes collection. And the reason we don't know how to count anymore is because we've expanded the collection so much recently. But that's just one kind of study you can do, and within the libraries, but spreading out to work with people on different faculties, as Sarah's current semester seems to be spread between MIT and Harvard Business School and the Divinity School, is also one of the great opportunities of studying here. I'm curious to ask how each of you has been here for a while, and I'm curious how you have changed, perhaps your view of your own objectives, but also your view of what you're out to do and what you bring to it, what kind of skills you want to bring to it, have changed as a result of your being in this really exciting and challenging at the same time learning community. Challenging in part because it's such an interesting mix of people that you probably haven't worked with before, and exciting because of all the dynamic things there are to learn and engage with. Eoin, how about you first?
Yeah, definitely 2 things immediately come to mind. One is just looking at my academic interests. I came in, of course, with what I'd shared before, the specific interest in justice systems and forgiveness. And immediately from one of my first courses, Religious Literacy and Professions, it expanded significantly to thinking about the role of religious literacy and how just understanding how to engage with religion or belief systems at large can benefit any career, essentially. And from then really stemmed a huge interest in humanitarian action, specifically looking at access to justice. So looking from around the world, how do different justice systems, different faith systems engage with this access to representation from a variety of different perspectives. And it has drastically broadened the way I view religion engaging with the world and my own opportunities. So for example, this last summer, I was able to intern with an NGO working out of Geneva. So I'm participating in the Certificate on Religion and Public Life, one of the programs here at HDS. And with that, I was able to get funding and the connections to go work for an NGO founded by an HDS alum, actually, working on access to justice work around the world. So it's headquartered in Geneva. I was able to go to Geneva and spend a few weeks there working with the office and really get to broaden my horizon of how do interfaith movements engage with this broader access to justice opportunity. So it's certainly not something that I came into HDS thinking, I'm interested in international work, I'm interested in humanitarian action, but just with the opportunities, with the connections, and with the folks that I was surrounded with, it expanded how I viewed religion's engagement with others. I also, I think more personally, was able to deepen my own devotional practice. Like I mentioned, was raised Roman Catholic. That has been a pivotal kind of experience in my upbringing, particularly parents are both from Ireland, and kind of carried that Irish Catholic upbringing to myself. And with that, I've been able to engage with folks from all different practices, both Catholics and non-Catholics, and learn about my own practice, how I can engage with others, different devotional aspects that I've been able to adopt from other folks as well, sharing their own devotional practices. So I think both from my academic interests as well as my own practice of faith, I've been really able to expand those horizons.
Sarah, what about your changes as a result of being here?
Yeah, I think, yeah, if I could think there's one, I would say professional journey changes there and also a faith journey. I'll touch on the professional journey first. I love the richness and the environment here at both HDS, at Harvard and Cambridge, and all of these resources and coming together, really discovering, pursuing areas I'm passionate about within social environmental change, especially when it comes to mobility, transportation, climate. One thing I knew a little bit, but didn't really know until I got here was a great ecosystem for startups in Cambridge. We have the Cambridge Innovation Center. We have the Harvard Innovation Lab that's open to students from all schools. There's a lot of cross-school interaction there as well. And so professionally, just being really supported there. This summer, I spent most of it interning at a quantum computing startup in Boston. That was a lot of fun as well, and just learning about that kind of ecosystem and roles. In terms of faith journey, I'm converting to Catholicism this year, having previously come from an evangelical Anglican background. So I would say there's a lot of discernment there, and just generally being supported both within the community HDS and also the wider Harvard community as well. And there's so much to keep in mind when thinking through all this. But yeah, it's been a great journey so far. I'm really grateful for my time and the various changes here at HDS.
Mashal, how about you?
Yes, so for me, one thing that really changed, improved, I would say, was that I developed a sense of empathy. I mean, obviously, like I had empathy coming here, but that really got nourished. I felt because previously I was working on curriculum design, and that's what I wanted to do when I came here also. And it was here that I met people from such diverse backgrounds with such diverse views. And over the years, like over these 2 years, I learned to love them and to form a community with them, despite our differences. And that really impacted how I looked at so many things, and it really broadened, really expanded sort of my horizons. And I'm still doing the work of curriculum design and all those things. And I just feel that the amount of empathy that I have, the way I think about what I do from the lens of other people that I previously might not have thought so much about, is something that I really deeply appreciate about my experience at HDS. And I think like, had it not been for this community, I would not have had this. Like, I would not even have recognized the need for sort of cultivating this.
Really interesting. Let me pivot, if I can. I mean, it's terrific to hear all that. And I think it's many of those experiences, I think each of our students has some analog to that in terms of both what they get from working with other students who have views that are different from theirs, being in class with students who are not shy about saying what they think or are committed to, or sometimes what they think about what's under discussion, which challenges that. It's a vibrant context, but also one that I think is founded routinely on a practice of a certain kind of empathy. I think, Mashal, your comments are really putting a finger on something that is a challenge for all of us, teachers and students, which is to figure out how to learn together when we're coming from many different places and objectives. And that's part of that's part of what we do in class all day, every day at the Divinity School. And it's really part of what makes it terrific to teach here. I can tell you, I get to stay for longer than 2 years, which is really fun. But it's also challenging. When I come to class, I'm prepared on the material, but but there's also the question then of what happens in class with the mix of the students and with the kind of things, the knowledge and expertise and life experience and perspectives that they bring to class, which are really a good sizable chunk of what we're trying to work through every day. And I find that really important and constructive to what's going on. A lot of our courses give opportunities for students to do projects or write papers or perhaps pursue a research agenda and produce some kind of work product out of that as part of what they're doing in class. So I thought maybe to give people a concrete sense of what some of that is like, I may ask each of you to hone in on maybe one, perhaps two projects you did that you both felt were exciting or interesting. They may or may not have been your most well executed pieces, but that nonetheless you think sort of stand up as kind of a pivotal moment for you or a really valuable opportunity. So Sarah, how about I turn to you first?
Great, happy to share a little bit about two projects I worked on last semester. So one of my classes was called Asian American Religion. It was the first time it was taught by Professor Diana X. It was very exciting. It was a small seminar course. We really got to speak regularly. And I think that's another great thing about HDS. We have so many small seminar courses where we really get to have participant-centered learning, hear the viewpoints of not just your instructor, but also your students, fellow students in the class. And for that, my final project was writing a short book titled In Pursuit of a Better Life, a Chinese American Family's Immigration Journey. I'm really doing interviews on parents, honoring my heritage, trying to get a sense of what was their journey like when it came to something as complex as immigration and cultural assimilation and adjusting to life here and their values and beliefs. And it allowed me not only to understand my Chinese American heritage, but also my family story much, much more. And it was deeply personal. And I really appreciated the guidance and also creative freedom that Professor Eck gave. Another course I took at HDS last semester was called Finding Beauty in a Broken World, taught by American writer Terry Tempest Williams. And for that course, my final project was a book of poems, and sharing these poems that was about my mom's ancestral home in China, where I spent many of my childhood summers, and capturing the city and the smells and the friendships and all the relations there. So that was another deeply personal project, and really being able to exercise creativity and also a lot of fun listening to my own classmates and their various projects as well. And I think also what Margaret was talking about earlier, that deep listening. Imagine being in the classroom, we had a beautiful chapel. That was where it was held, the class was held, and just listening for 20-30 minutes as someone shares their creative project and being able to give feedback and process that. So those are two projects that I really appreciated so far.
Terrific. Mashal.
So yeah, I did two very interesting projects last semester. So I was taking a course on Muslim women navigating social media, and for that course, so our final project was making a TikTok video, and it was 40%. So all of us we were very nervous about it because most of us had never used TikTok, and most of us downloaded TikTok for the first time just for that class. And so the project that I did was on sex education and how Muslim women are using TikTok to spread an awareness of healthy sexual practices using a spiritual framework. And so we had to make a TikTok video sort of explaining what our project was on, and then sort of do a write-up. And as intimidating as it was, that was a very thrilling experience for me. And the other project that I did was making a film. So I was taking this course on ethnomusicology. And so last semester, so the last month of the last semester coincided with Ramadan, which is like a fasting period for Muslims. And so I wanted to do something, I wanted to do my project on the experience of different Muslims who were new to the community. And so what I did was I, spoke to some of my friends who had recently either converted to Islam or, were very new to the whole experience. And sort of I did interviews and I made films. Like I spent the whole month sort of collecting footage of how their experience was, what they were doing, and, how they were like managing everything with school and everything. And then I made a film out of it. And yeah, so that was the other project. And both of them were very challenging, but very thrilling. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to do that.
I haven't really had the guts to assign a TikTok video to anyone in my classes, but because I wouldn't know my way around TikTok either. But it might be a challenging thing for everyone. Those are really excellent examples. Eoin, how about you?
I, in the last answer, mentioned briefly the certificate on religion and public life.
Right.
So with that certificate, like I mentioned, you take a course during your very first fall semester on religious literacy in the professions, where you're engaging with a selection of, I think they have now 6 professional areas, including things like journalism, humanitarian action, media and entertainment, and conducting a research project throughout the course of the semester in that specific area. You then have the internship during your middle summer, and then your very last semester, so I'll be doing it in the spring, you do a research project on what role does religious literacy play within your specific area. So I guess that will be kind of the ongoing research project I'll be conducting this year, is really exploring the role of religious literacy within the access to justice space and humanitarian action at large. So what role does adopting a different perspective on religion, really trying to understand the nuanced elements of religious studies play within access to justice movements around the world. So that's a particularly exciting one that I'll be conducting, I guess, over the course of the year. And I see Margaret added the link as well to the certificate on religion and public life link. So would definitely recommend folks that are interested in that kind of work to take a look online. And then the other project that I really enjoyed was last semester as well. I was taking a class that was cross-listed between the Divinity School and then Harvard Kennedy School, so the public policy school. And it was kind of a hybrid class. So we had a seminar, we were learning about the lessons from Professor Cornell William Brooks. And then you also were put into small groups and paired up with either a local city government or a nonprofit organization to help work through a few of the strategic planning for that organization. So I was put on a group with 6 students. Half of us were from the Divinity School, the other half from either the Kennedy School or public health. And we were paired up with the city government in Montgomery, Alabama, working on a brand new Office of Violence Prevention. So we were able to interview a whole bunch of stakeholders from down there, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, government officials, and really try to understand what is the history of violence prevention within the region, conduct research as well on different violence prevention techniques from around the country. And by the end of the semester, presented our findings to the OVP of Montgomery, as well as the mayor's office down there. We were able to go as well in person for a few days and really try to get the feel for on the ground research. So it was a great kind of opportunity for, in a crash course of 3 months, dive right into the issues, really understand how different faith institutions and organizations on the ground are doing this work of violence prevention as well, and then really turn it into a tangible project and recommendations that we could then hand.
Interesting. So I want to pivot. I'm thinking about the kind of projects and papers you've been working on, which I think gets into the real concrete examples of what it's like to take some of these courses and do some of this work. And I think we get a sense of both the variation that is there, in addition to, we didn't really have any examples of the kind of classic academic paper, but I can assure you there are many contexts where that's one of the assignments too, maybe not quite as memorable in all cases, but those are there as well. We have a question from one of the participants currently who I think, thinking through the requirements that we have, wondered how you all may have found the language requirement, which is, as a requirement, is an expectation really of competence, not of a particular amount of study. So we ask that students manifest or show competence in a language relevant to the study that they're doing, which is additional to what our language of instruction is. And I wonder how each of you both approached that, whether you came in with language expertise and just sort of signed off on that and moved along, or whether you integrated that into your study while you were here. Mashal.
Yeah, so I did Arabic as my language, and I had some background, but I had studied it very informally. I had not taken any particular courses in Arabic. And I found that the resources at Harvard were like extremely helpful. The teachers were so patient. Like I tried studying Arabic earlier on my own, but the amount of progress I made within one semester at Harvard was phenomenal. Like it was more than what I had expected for myself. And yeah, so it was not intimidating for me. Like I was intimidated before I started it, but when I got to doing it, like it was very smooth for me. And I managed to do it all the way to the advanced level. And that's one of my favorite parts of Harvard, how the language requirement was just taken care of in a very smooth way.
Eoin or Sarah?
Yeah, happy to go next. I think for me, at least, yeah, it was just exam, so very short. I think about hour and a half, can't remember exactly how long, and tested out of German. I've been learning German for a couple years at that point, and even here at Harvard, although I'm not taking a German course, as part of the German club. So there are a lot of ways to engage with language, both within the classroom and also outside the classroom.
And that's a good example of how the requirement's really a competence requirement. So if you come and have that expertise at it's an intermediate reading level competence. And if you come with that and don't want to study language further, you can demonstrate that and drive on. Or alternatively, you can dig in, as Mashal indicated, and take advantage of those resources. There's also, I should say, in relation to that, there's also the opportunity to study a few languages, which we have the resources to offer in the summer language program, which you can either do the summer before you begin your MTS, and it's equivalent to 2 4-credit courses. Or you can do that this summer in between your first year and your second year if you haven't done it initially. So the opportunity, some students find it helpful to just get a beachhead on the language study and kind of do it first and then come in after that. But that's a real opportunity as well that's baked into the program. Perhaps let me pivot, and Eoin, if you want to jump in here, that's fine. But I was thinking we might pivot to accentuate a bit more and dig into something that several of you have touched on already, which is how the makeup of the community of scholars and students and people aspiring to all different kinds of things who make up our intellectual community, how that community has affected you, and particularly how you found the religious diversity, the cultural, the geographic, the various kinds of diversity that make up our student body, how you found that to substantively affect your experience here.
Absolutely. I kind of hinted at the earlier in the conversation, but the multi-denominational aspect of HDS. I think Margaret mentioned in the conversation, there's more than 40 faith traditions represented by the student body. Was one of the reasons I chose to come to Harvard Divinity to study. I, as I mentioned, had this Catholic background and really wanted to expand outside of that a little bit more, having gone to a Catholic undergrad institution, and really draw from a variety of faith traditions and belief systems in order to form both my own practice and my academic interests as well. And I think that's certainly what I found. I think, as Dr. Lamberth hinted earlier, folks are very willing to share kind of their opinions, their authentic selves in the classroom and out. And I think I've really been able to engage in a lot of those conversations, both within just standard classroom discussions, as well as walking down the hall. Or on Tuesday afternoon, so earlier today, we have an event called Community Tea, which is just a meal hosted by the university. And folks are just sitting around it and sharing about their weeks, the classes that they're in, the different faith belief systems that inform their own practices in life as well. And I think a lot of the times in those conversations, I'm kind of noting things of, oh, that's interesting, I need to look into that more. Oh, that's a different way to adopt the kind of practices that they're hearing in the classroom into their own lives. So I think a lot of those just conversations outside of the typical academic arena have been really pivotal to my own understanding. And then one other element I would add that has been great is the Wednesday noon services. So every Wednesday at noon throughout the year, a different student group or faculty or staff group hosts a noon service in their own tradition. And that ranges from, I think the first one this year was the HDS Buddhist community. We have the denominational counselors. So staff or individuals that represent a variety of faith traditions as well. We'll be hosting one later this semester. Joyous Noise was last week's, which is a multi-faith chanting group. So you really get to learn and experience a whole variety of faith traditions within this 45-minute service right in the middle of the week. So even from informal opportunities like that, I've been able to learn a lot about these different faith traditions, about my peers' practice of those faith traditions, and incorporate that as well into my own life.
Terrific. Sarah, how about you?
That's one of the things, very much wanting to be in an environment that's so diverse, and people have come from many different religious and cultural backgrounds, and just having these conversations both inside and outside the classroom. For instance, in my faith-based community organizing class, people have actually worked in community organizing. Others have an interest in bringing their different perspectives and sharing that in the class. I think that's another great thing about the seminar format with a lot of these classes, is you really get to hear from your fellow classmates on their life experiences, why they're here, and the deep questions that they're grappling with. And so very much, I would say this is an asset that Harvard Divinity School brings.
Thank you. Mashal.
Yeah, just to add to both to what both of my fellow panelists have said, I also really like how the school space is organized. So we have a multi-faith room, which allows, like, every time we go there, most of the times we go there, we do encounter someone from another faith tradition or from another denomination, and it's being there in the same space, doing whatever we have to do, or just, being mindful of the other person's presence is it's such a learning experience on its own, And then the HDS Commons and the opportunity it allows, for us to just interact with people over lunch, or just, or tea, or people from one tradition will be having an event, and, other people would just join them and learn about that. So that's sort of the way this space is structured, really adds, to learning outside of the classroom experience. And that's something I really appreciate. And that's something I've benefited a lot from over these 2 years.
So that's one of those great features that the three of you have been able to take advantage of your whole time here. But the renovations that were done to Swartz Hall, formerly Andover Hall, have really just reshaped the nature of the space that structures our community. There's a central cafeteria, commons, cafe right outside of the library, which is just downstairs from a number of our teaching spaces, many of which are newly outfitted. And that's all, complemented by these other spaces you've mentioned. And it really does pull it together. And it's very interesting for someone like me who I've been at school now. I think this is my 26th year on the faculty, and I was a student in graduate school here and in and out of the Divinity School. These last 2 years have really been just super being in that space and seeing how it really brings everybody together. The kind of what business school people refer to as the bump factor, which means how many people will you bump into in a given day who are doing something different than you are, so that you have an opportunity to feed off of what they're doing. That's gone way up as the space really has drawn people together. So that's quite exciting. Thinking about the group of people we have with us and their interest with regard to applying to the school, I wonder what advice you might have to those who are thinking about applying. From your own perspective of thinking about your own time when you were in their shoes, but also now your retrospective look onto that, whether you might have things to offer there. Sarah, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, happy to answer this one. And then also in a moment, we'll have to leave a little bit early because I have something coming up. Just apply. That's a simple one. Make sure to apply from the application, the deadline. I know this sounds very basic, but I know sometimes people are thinking, well, should I? I mean, is this the right year? But if you feel like this is a great place, you'll be really flourishing here, then just apply. So that's a simple one. I think the more complex or perhaps more complex piece of advice would be open to change. Know that maybe you will write something in your personal statement, and that's great. But also in your time here, there's so many opportunities for change, for reflection, for conversations, opportunities that you can't imagine having when you were applying. So just be open to change and really embrace that during your journey, both as an applicant and also hopefully as a student at Harvard Divinity School. And I will have to unfortunately leave a little early, but thank you so much to the attendees and my fellow panelists today.
Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate your time today. Eoin, how about you?
The pieces of advice that jumped to my mind were somewhat echoed Sarah's as well. But I think one of them is to take that leap of faith, to kind of jump into the abyss. And particularly, it was a huge decision of mine to even apply to Divinity School, having not studied religious studies in a formal setting in that way. And then, of course, to attend. So I'm a first-gen student. My parents didn't attend university of any kind. They're both immigrants. And I think from that stage, they kind of saw that I was in a financial stable position, just working at an accounting firm, and saw that I was interested in exploring theological studies and going to Divinity School. And they were, of course, kind of confused of what does this mean? What exactly is Divinity School? Where does this kind of fit into the career trajectory? And I think it really took a matter of trust to kind of take that step forward and to step into the unknown without really knowing where exactly I was going to land. And I think over the last year and a half has entirely validated that choice. And I've had a chance to participate in so many incredible discussions, meet so many incredible individuals, that it really has above and beyond changed my entire perspective on how I engage with the world. So I think taking that step of trust to apply and then kind of making the determination for the next steps as well as best fits your trajectory and your own personal understanding as well. And then the other aspect I would say is, of course, you're going to come in with Divinity School with a particular idea of what you're interested in, both in academic areas of interest, but also potentially like student clubs, organizations to get a part of, classes to take. And I think much like the step of kind of trusting and seeing where you're going to land, there are just so many additional opportunities to get involved of things that I didn't know I was interested in when I was applying. And now having taken a few classes in like storytelling or conflict resolution or spiritual healing, I think these are points that don't necessarily fit exactly within what I envisioned as a career trajectory, but it fundamentally changed how I'm moving through that career and engaging with other individuals. So I think, of course, have this idea of what you want to do here, where you see yourself in a few years into the future, but be willing to kind of take those additional steps and go down a path that you traditionally wouldn't have expected for yourself, but might learn a whole book full from as well.
The theme of growth and potential transformation of where you're headed seems to be one that both you and Sarah share. Mashal, what about you? On the advice question, you can also share that growth and transformation theme too.
Yeah, I mean, just adding to what both of them have already said, I think one thing that I would really advise everybody to do is just to spend some time exploring the resources that are available here. Because I feel that 2 years now that I'm about to graduate, I just feel that 2 years just went like this, you know. And had I known how many resources we have, I think like I would have, you know, been more I would have designed my, you know, degree in a much better way and done far more things that I was able to do here. So I just, you know, I would just advise, you know, people to just explore the resources and then see how they can streamline the project that they have in mind before they come here, you know, according to those resources, because there's so much that can be done here. There's so many courses that you can take here and so many interesting things that are happening. So just, you know, acquainting yourself with that, I think that would be really helpful.
Very helpful advice. I can say from the perspective of having served on the admissions committee a few years ago, we very much want to see you apply, but we also want to see in your application where your thinking is now, how you think you'll engage with the resources of the school and university. And then of course, when you're admitted and you choose to think about coming and then eventually come, over that time period, that kind of development and sort of realizing how you might tackle what you want to do concretely is something we expect to develop and evolve a bit. So we want to hear about you and where you are and what your hopes are. And you'll see, as I think you can see from our wonderful panelists today, both how your colleagues are such an excellent group to study with, but also how you can expect your own lives to be changed should you choose to come here. So it's really great to hear from both Mashal, you and Eoin, and I really deeply appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lamberth. Thank you, Mashal and Eoin, and thanks to Sarah, who had to leave. I'm just so grateful to all of you for taking the time and sharing your perspective. I always say, you know, students are absolutely our best advocates and ambassadors, because really you're living this program in this moment. And if you're still, despite the transformation, which I know can be challenging, you're still flourishing here and finding your home and a place of belonging, that really speaks volumes. And particularly since each one of you is so unique in what your interests are and how you're using your time here. As we've shared, students are able to take up to 50% of their classes in the MTS program outside of Harvard Divinity School. Each one of you has taken classes outside of here, and it's been so wonderful to hear that. And so there are no two HDS students with the same transcript because of that. It's just really wonderful. You also really got a chance to hear about the different broader resource outside of HDS and how folks are able to tailor their experiences, both professional, but also skill making, like in filmmaking or in community organizing or in entrepreneurship. So, and this is just a very small sampling. These are 3 extraordinary students, but we have around 300 students here, each of whom is uniquely doing their own specific pathway, but which informs everybody else. So again, thank you so much, Professor Lamberth and Mashal, Eoin, and Sarah. Many thanks to everybody in the audience for your time. And we hope to see you at one of our future events. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, day, or morning, wherever you are. Bye.